So you can see I've got quite a mess here. And that's, how it often goes. Certainly with my most important components in the painting, I want to get it right. And so I've revisited areas a bunch of times. I think I can make something out of that. So now what I'm going to do is lay in the shapes. Ignoring the branches, ignoring the areas, ignoring the lines that I don't want to use, and accentuating the lines that I do want to use. And I'm laying them in, pretty solidly, because these are the lines that with some luck will endure right through to the end of the painting. And that's only if I get them right and don't have to adjust them. Or adjust them very much anyway. Okay, that's the underside of that little bit of foliage. Our trunk. This branch coming down where it meets the trunk, but it's around the back side, so we will just go right through it. Right? We got the curve of the trunk, and then that branch comes out the far side, so that sort of covers that. This one is on this side, so we want to show where it is or where it grows out of the trunk. Pretty strong branch here. That one also is growing out of just around the corner on the right hand side, and here we'll have a bit of dark foliage again, underneath that canopy of leaves. I'll just continue with my outline here. Okay, something like that. And I'm making this trunk a little thinner, as you can see. A little bit of, a small branch and a cluster of leaves coming towards us. Breaks up this bit of trunk well, I think. Got that trunk leaning in. I like this. I like this idea of having a bit of bush obscuring the base of the tree, the base of this tree. I think that's going to work okay. And I also like the idea of a bit of an old stump here. I'm changing the shape a little bit. This might be part of an old stump that's split into two. Yeah, I think I like that idea too. Yeah, we'll see. I might make it two individuals. I really don't know yet. Okay, that line is gonna, I know that's gonna come down, sort of like that. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I think I've got it right. I believe, my plan, I should say, is to use a painting knife on this one. I've been doing so much of this, you know, reworking of some older pieces and playing with the brush and carving in here and there and putting on thin layers. Time to put my back into something, and painting with a knife helps you to feel that way. Certainly the results are stronger. Well, we're getting our trunks in place. Put a bit of color on this one and here as well. You know, this and this are the two most important. I don't want them to be overwhelmingly important, otherwise we end up with two goalposts and a scene in the middle. That's okay. That'll be handled as I paint, as the painting moves ahead. But I think really all of the important trunks are in now, and a few of the branches. Likely going to make a few changes that way, you know, as we move on. I wasn't happy with this at all, so as you can see, I just took a bit of toilet paper and wiped it off roughly. That's not going to disturb me once I wash the painting in. So the trunks are the strong bits. You know, these bits of foliage are the strong bits. I'll probably put in some more darks in the foreground, and here in the foreground, tapering off as we go towards the center, to establish this plane, which blends into this plane in this area. After that, I'm going to worry about washing in the background, and I'm not going to get too meticulous with details. Really, I'm just going to try to vary color a lot, and I'm going to try to make sure that I don't go too high a value. Because I'm painting with a knife, I'm not worried about being a little too dark on the wash, and that knife puts the paint on thick enough that there's no worry about refractive index changes, things like that. It's not a big deal. Alright, so we've kind of established a connection here, right? This is all dark. This is really going to be our first plane melding into our second plane. On the charcoal drawing, you could differentiate more easily between this and this. For the sake of just getting foreground values in, I've gone equally dark here. It will ultimately probably be broken up a little bit. Now I'm going to take some midtones, and now we're going to knock the temperature of the paint up quite a bit and start laying in some of the foliage that will be attached to the main trunks through here. So I'm again working sort of from the outside in. I've made a cradle, a visual cradle for the focal area. I need to bear in mind as I'm doing this that this will remain darker. This will have to be higher in value. it's necessary, because if I were just to leave it, like look at the painting now, what I have is something that's sort of a third of the way in, and something that's less than a third of the way in, both very strong. Again, we've divided the painting in a sense of two goalposts with the goal in between. This, although it's almost as close as this is to you, we raise the value, get a little fuzzier on our lines. That'll push it back so that this will still remain ultimately the dominant feature in the foreground, even though it's not really the most important part of the painting. So far. Well, it's getting there. I've just gone with, well, raw umber, alizarin, crimson, yellow ochre, bits of ultramarine blue here and there. Bits of yellow, or bits of cobalt blue as well, to go into the purples for most of this. With the exception of a couple of minor shapes, I'm pretty much just going to stain the rest of this canvas in these colors. Using a little more yellow ochre mostly. I'm not going to worry too much about shapes. What I find is that if I get too persnickety even during the wash-in, I will end up being tempted so much to try to follow all of those little lines with my knife. And that's never been anything but a bad idea. Anyway, once that's washed in, I'll give you a peek. Well, as you can see, I'm just putting in some stuff that has potential for some glowiness. Keeping my colors very orange and warm. Using some bit of yellow ochre, bit of cad red medium, bit of cad orange. I'm not painting shapes so much as I am just kind of trying to cover the white, you know, and provide a variety of shape and color in the background. But no hard lines, no definite shapes. You know, I'm carving around the ones in the foreground obviously, but the background can do what it wants for the time being. I'll organize it with the knife. And when it comes to the hard lines, that's the knife's job as well. So this is kind of just labor. It's not quite mindless, but doesn't require too much thought, seeing as it's all more or less drawn in already. You know, it's sort of, what would you call it, coloring book time. And of course, you do have to make up your own colors. You have to decide what you want in there. So I went with sort of, as a wash, it'll just be, as you can see, fairly orange, I guess, really, all in all. That'll change. It'll find some variety. It'll go a little more yellow, I think, as the painting carries on. And that's when the fun begins. Well, I'm enjoying this too. It's kind of relaxing. But yeah, you start to put those knife strokes in there and things get stronger, and seeing as it is painting with a knife, with my technique at least, there's lots of potential for big screw-ups. There's also potential for some sort of wow moments, you know. It's kind of gratifying when those come along. Okay, that's a bit of variety there. I think I'm going to go more towards maybe yellow ochre on the left here. Let's just see. Just wipe some of that mixture off my palette and just use some straight yellow ochre. Contaminated with a little bit of the leftovers from this pile. If I go straight yellow ochre right away, we're getting awfully light in a hurry. Using my brush like a pen right now, holding it like a pen. I could be a little neater if I were to use a newer brush. As you can see, this one is starting to lose its fine edges, but that's okay. You know, I'm cheap. I want to use up my brushes. I don't want to just bring them to a certain point and then toss them. I'd rather get as much use as I can practically get out of them. Okay, let's see here. And I don't mind being a little rougher on it either now, because, like I say, if it wears it out, that's fine. If it gets a bit worn out, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I have my certain brushes set aside that I will use for finish painting. And I'm not even sure if this trunk is going to stay. I'm really not convinced of that. But for the time being, I will leave it. That was, finished sort of my dirty yellow ochre there. Now I've just added some, a little bit of burnt sienna to it. Again, it's not, this is, when you stain a canvas, if you stain the whole thing, my stain is usually more opaque than this. But when we're just doing, but when we're washing in, I tend to like to use, I tend to like it a little more opaque. And it needs to be more opaque because otherwise you'll never bring that value down. Okay, pretty hard lines around the tree here, but I'm not going to worry about it. If I decide to put a little bit of, or have a little bit of sky poking through in places, I'll just do that right over my colors, where I have it. As I think I mentioned that, I know I'm not going to have a tremendous amount of sky poking through, if any. Okay, that's pretty orange yet. I think I'm going to add a touch of alizarin crimson and a bit of ultramarine blue and a bit of white. We'll go more purple. Give it a sense of maybe receding a little bit up here. Yeah, I think that's better. Kill the intensity of that color a bit. Okay. So I don't know if that trunk will continue up off the painting there either. So many things I don't know, but I have left a lot of options open. You know, if it's a small painting, I don't usually leave as many options open, but the size affords you the ability to do that. Alright, I'll back you up a little bit and we will have a peek. And more of a square shot as usual. Oh, got a little too much glare on the left. You know what I'll do? Actually, I want to raise it up anyway. Close my blinds a little bit. I think that helps a little bit. Well, that's not great. Sorry, I'm just jumping around here. I'm not going to edit it out. There. Sort of a puzzle, different colors. It's very close. You know, the main composition is how I'd like it. And it's going to vary as we carry on.